पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So last time we discussed 92nd Anucheda, the 93rd Anucheda, first part. The 92nd Anucheda, we discussed the shloka from Rudra Gita. Yaha param ramghasa sakshat triguna jiva samyitat bhagavantam vasudevam prapannasa priyogi me. Lord Shiva said that a person who is directly surrendered to Bhagavan Vasudeva, who is beyond the three gunas, who is beyond the Jivatmas, and who is superior, or who is even superior to the Ramhasa. Here the Ramhasa word refers to Brahman. Who is superior to Brahman, such a person is very dear to me. The word Ramhasa refers to Brahman. Jiva Goswami quotes 3.15.46 to substantiate that the word Ramhasa refers to Brahman. So that is the main shloka from the Ranucheda. Apart from that, there were other quotations from Vishnu Dharma Purana. They were all quoted there. The 93rd Anucheda, little somewhat difficult to understand. It will again go through it. That's the 93rd Anucheda, first part. Jiva Goswami is actually again the same thing. Brahman is superior to Bhagavan is superior to Brahman. Because he begins with Tadevam Tadevameva Abhiprayena. In the intention of so in the same intention of showing that Bhagavan is superior to Brahman, he is quoting the Taittiriya Upanishad. So I'll first discuss the we have not discussed the purport to this. So in this Anucheda, Jiva Goswami will quote the verse from the prayers of the personified Vedas. Prayers of the personified Vedas. That will come in the later part. He quotes the verse from the prayers of the personified Vedas and uses that particular shloka to analyze the statements of the Taittiriya Upanishad in order to prove that Bhagavan is superior to Brahman. So the second chapter of Taittiriya Upanishad is called as Anandavalli. Anandavalli means the creeper of bliss. So this chapter describes the Lord as the supreme manifestation of Ananda. So in this chapter, the first part of the chapter describes that Brahman is the support of everything. And then the succeeding part of the chapter describes the Bhagavan as the shelter of the various levels of Ananda. So the Upanishad begins by defining Brahman through a gradual progression. First, in terms of the gross body, Annamaya Purusha. and then followed by the vital force, pranamaya purusha, and then the mind, manomaya purusha, and then the self, vijnanamaya purusha, and finally the blissful one, anandamaya purusha, which embodies the complete understanding of Brahman. So this step-by-step method is called as Arundhati Pradarshana Nyaya. So we know that it is marriage. During the marriage in the morning, we have the Kashi Yatra, and then I think before Kashi Yatra or after that in the marriage ritual, uh, they show the Arundhati star, no? Arundhati star. So Arundhati Pradarshana Nyaya means the technique of pointing out the Arundhati star. So normally in the Vedic culture, it's a custom to show this Arundhati star to a bride just after her marriage. So Arundhati is the protector of the chaste womanhood. But it is not easy to spot this particular star. So in order to indicate that Arundhati star, a step-by-step method is given. First, the priest will point to a constellation called as Saptarishi constellation. And then he will point to one of the stars in the Saptarishi constellation. And then finally, he will actually point out the Arundhati star, which is next to the star named Vashishta. Vasishta and Arundhati. Have you gone to that cave or the ashram of Vasishta? Is the husband of Arundhati, na? I think on the way to Devaprayag, I visited last year.
Yeah,
So,
yes.
huh? In this way, the Arundhati star is pointed out by the priest in a step-by-step manner. Because Arundhati star is not easy to point out immediately. First, you point out a Saptarishi constellation, and then one star and another star, and finally the Arundhati star, which is next to Vasishta star. So similarly, it is not easy to grasp the concept of Brahman. So therefore, the Shruti mercifully approaches the matter by drawing our attention from the gross matter, Annamaya Purusha, to the Pranamaya Purusha, Manomaya Purusha, Vijnanamaya Purusha, and then Anandamaya Purusha. So in this analysis, as well as in the ones that follow, so the body, mind, and so on are described as a Purusha or a person. So the Purusha is compared to a bird which consists of various parts. It contains head, left wing, right wing, midsection, and a tail. So nevertheless, although the mantra apparently describes a bird's body, the teaching must be applied to the human form. Because the teaching is meant for the human beings, not for the animals. So in this case, the left and right arms would represent the wings. And the posterior is compared to the tail, back portion. Just as the tail supports the bird, the lower body, posterior portion, supports the upper body. This is the meaning of pratishta as used in the metaphor. The midsection referring to the chest is the Atma. because that is the most vital part of the body. So the first mantra in the Taittiriya Upanishad, second chapter, describes the Purusha as being made of the essence of food, Annamaya. So the body is there described as the self, I am Atma. The body is the Atma. The body which is made of the Anna is the Atma. So this understanding is for the people who are attached to the body and consider it their very self. And then, so the body is neatly described as being made of food. And then the next mantra, Taittiriya Upanishad defines the Purusha as the vital force, Pranamaya, made of prana. So this prana is beyond the Annamaya covering. So there are 5 divisions of the prana that represent the 5 limbs. The 5 divisions of the vital force that represent the 5 limbs are prana, apana, samana, udana, vyana. And their respective seats in the body are as follows. Prana vayu is in the heart. Apana vayu is in the anus. Samana vayu is in the navel portion. Udana vayu is in the throat. And vyana vayu pervades the whole body. So verse is quoted. Hridiprano gudepana samano nabhimandale udana kantadeshe syad vyana sarva shariragaha. So in the previous mantra, the food was referred to as the basis of the body. But more important than food is the vital force. And the vital force, prana, is subtler, more subtle, which is more subtle even than the breath. So life cannot be sustained even for a moment without the circulation of this vital force. Therefore, Taittiriya Upanishad mantra is drawing attention to the vital force that circulates within the subtle energy matrix. And this vital force is interior too, and hence beyond the physical body. And then the next mantra, Taittiriya Upanishad describes the Purusha in terms of the mind, Manomaya. So the mind is interior to both the gross body as well as the vital force. Mind is like the Atma for both of them. That means the gross body and the vital force become animated through the influence of the mind. So the Manomaya refers to the mental body, which includes the mind, the material ego, intelligence, and chitta or consciousness, which includes the mind, the material ego. So the Manomaya which includes the Manomaya refers to the mental body, which includes the mind, Ahankara, Buddhi, and Chitta. These are the 4 aspects of the subtle body, the Manomaya. So Manomaya, Maya is the suffix over here. The Mayat suffix in Manomaya implies the predominance of the mind. So knowledge is attained by the action of the mind, or in other words, the mental body. So therefore, Shruti here refers to the knowledge found in these mental components. And then beyond the mental body is the Vijnanamaya Purusha, which is conscious by nature. Vijnanamaya Purusha refers to the Atma, which is conscious by nature. Therefore, the Atma upholds the knowledge. Therefore, the 4th mantra describes the Purusha as the self, the Vijnanamaya Purusha, the Atma. The self is the Atma. You are able to see the screen, na? I'm basically reading from the purport only.
Yes, Prabhu, I can read it, Prabhu. It is visible.
The self is the Atma for all the previous Purushas. That self is the animating principle for all the previous Purusha. That is Annamaya Purusha, Pranamaya Purusha, and the Manomaya Purusha. So Vijnanamaya refers to the living being, the possessor of consciousness, and not just to consciousness proper. And the limbs of this Vijnanamaya Purusha are referred by the words Shraddha, Rita, Satya, Yoga, and Mahas. These are the different aspects of knowledge. The different aspects of knowledge. Little technical, philosophical, but I suggest you also go through after the class. At least 2 times you will have to go through. So the self is not a self-supporting. Rather, this Atma, its existence, inheres in and thus depends on the Supreme Self, that is the Paramatma. So therefore, the next mantra describes the Purusha as the blissful Supreme Person, Anandamaya Purusha. I'll read this 5th mantra. Tasmadva yetasmad Vijnanamayad Anyontara Atma Anandamayah Tenaisha Purnaha Sava Yesha Purusha Vidayeva Tasya Purusha Vidatam Anvayam Purusha Vidaha Tasya Priyameva Shiraha. Modo Dakshinaha Pakshaha Pramoda Uttara Pakshaha Ananda Atma Brahmapucham Pratishta. Apart from the individual self, Vijnana, apart from the individual self, Vijnana, there is another self within, who is the Anandamaya Purusha, the embodiment of bliss. And by this self, the individual self is completed. Anyontara Atma Anandamaya Tenaisha Purnaha. By this self, the individual self is completed. By the Anandamaya Purusha, the individual Atma is completed. Sava Yesha Purusha Vidayeva. And he is immanent in the living being. He is also a person. He is also a person. And this Purusha is described. Tasya Priyameva Shiraha. His head is the Priya. Love is his head. Moda Dakshina Pakshaha. Moda means amusement is his right wing. Pramoda, the enjoyment, is the left wing. And Ananda Atma, the bliss is his self. And Brahman, his supportive tail. Brahma Pucham Pratishta. So in this way, in these 5 shlokas of the Taittiriya Upanishad, has started about the ultimate reality, leading us from the Annamaya Purusha to Pranamaya Purusha to Manomaya Purusha to Vijnanamaya Purusha, and then all the way up to the Supreme Person, who is the innermost self. encompassing all the conscious selves and all dimensions of being. So the Anandamaya means what? Full of bliss. So it does not mean that the Supreme is merely a transformation of bliss. Rather, he is made of bliss. So therefore, his head, that is Priya, his wings are Pramoda. Moda and Pramoda. His wings are also made of bliss. So according to Sri Ranga Ramanuja Muni, an Acharya in the Sri Sampradaya, Priya means the happiness of beholding the entity or object longed for. Moda means the joy of attaining that entity or object. Pramoda is the joy of active engagement in regard to the entity or object. And Ananda means all exceeding joy. So this is the passage of the Upanishads referred to by the Vedanta Sutra when it says that Anandamayo Vyasat. This is the Vedanta Sutra. So in this Vedanta Sutra, Anandamayo Vyasat, because Vedanta Sutra is the essence of the Upanishads in the Sutra format. So Taittiriya Upanishad, these shlokas describing the self as the Annamaya to Pranamaya to Manomaya to Vijnanamaya to Anandamaya. So these Taittiriya Upanishad passages are succinctly described in the Vedanta Sutra, Anandamayo Vyasat. Brahman is Anandamaya, being repeatedly referred to as such. So this analysis from the Shruti describes each successive Purusha as the Atma of the previous Purusha. But the Anandamaya Purusha is the Atma of all of them. That means he is the one utterly complete self in which everything else inheres. And he is none other than Sri Krishna, and this is confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. At the end of the Brahma Vimohan Leela, when Parishit Maharaj asked a question, generally parents love their children more than other children. But how is it that in the in the Vrindavan, they love Krishna more than their own children? So in response, Shukdev Goswami speaks a series of shlokas. So there Shukdev Goswami speaks this shloka. Krishnamenam avehitvam atmanam akilatmanam jagaddithaya sopyatra dehi vabhati mayaya. You should know this Krishna to be the original self of all selves. For the benefit of the world, he has appeared here by his mercy, as though an embodied being. Krishna has appeared here by his mercy as though an embodied being, and he is the original self of all selves. So Bhagavatam is the natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra, Arthoyam Brahma Sutranam. We saw that Vedanta Sutra says that Anandamayo Vyasa. That Vedanta Sutra is a summary of the Taittiriya Upanishad 2.1 to 2.5. And this Vedanta Sutra is described in a much more interesting way in the Brahma Vimohan Leela. Because in the Brahma Vimohan Leela, and Krishna assumed the forms of the cowherd boys. So at that time, normally the Vrajavasis would love Krishna more than their children. But during that one particular year, they loved their children just as they would love Krishna. That because just as much they would love Krishna, because their son himself was Krishna. Krishna became their son. So how is it that they loved Krishna more than their children? Because Krishna is the original self of all selves. So this Anandamayo Vyasat is confirmed in the Brahma Vimohan Leela. So now you read so this is the explanation. So now if you read you can read this particular portion. It is with the same intention.
You want me to read, Prabhu? Okay. 93.1. It is with the same intention of showing that Bhagavan is superior to Brahman that Taittiriya Upanishad describes the Purusha as being one in essence with the successively more and more subtle items, beginning with the statement, this Purusha is composed of the essence of food, Taittiriya Upanishad 2.1. The concluding statements of this description is successively descriptions are successively. This is the supporting tail. The earth is supporting tail. Then Arthavangirasa,
Atharvangirasa.
Atharvangirasa, the hymns of the Atharva Veda are, you have to scroll the page, Prabhu.
The hymns
You have
of
to scroll you have to scroll the page.
Okay. The hymns of Atharva Veda are the supporting tail. Maha is the supporting tail.
And finally, Brahman is supporting tail. Bhagavan is superior even to Brahman. The fifth and last, these supports described in the Taittiriya Upanishad.
Okay.
Three.
So this particular portion is elaborated in the commentary which we read so far.
Yes.
So then after that, the Brahman is the supporting tail. That's how he concludes. The Brahma Pucham Pratishta. The fifth shloka ends with Brahma Pucham Pratishta. Brahman the supporting tail. And then now Jiva Goswami quotes the Bhagavad Gita 14th chapter. Brahmano hi pratishtaham. So
Prabhuji, this Annamaya Kocha and the Annakshetra, that is Puri Jagannath, and like that, is there any connection between this the Brahma Pucham here and the Dhama? Anything? Because somewhere that Annamaya Kshetra, what the Jagannath Puri is taken up. That is there any
it's told
connection?
because Jagannath Puri is famous for Jagannath Prasadam. We will not unnecessarily relate. Jagannath Puri is famous for Prasadam, therefore it's called like that.
Also, there is one more analogy with the human evolution. The child immediately, sooner it's born, it puts everything in the mouth. So that like animalistic propensity, it said that
So
Annamaya.
in the beginning, the child is in the Annamaya Kosha.
Then further, but it never comes to that Anandamaya full deliberately. I mean, it has to deliberate for the purpose to consciousness to develop later.
In the beginning, the child sees everything in terms of food. Whatever you give, it will put in the mouth. So the child is in the Annamaya platform. And so Annamaya platform is in one sense a highly selfish platform, seeing everything in terms of my own food. And then when the child little more grows up, it comes the Pranamaya Kosha. In Annamaya Kosha, the living entity is aware of only his own need. Is aware of only his own need, his own food. It will not be aware of anybody else's need. That is the stage of Annamaya Kosha. And then the Pranamaya Kosha, the living entity, the child, when it becomes little more grown up, it also becomes aware of others' needs. But then Me first. First, I should get. It's aware of others' needs, physical needs, but me first. That is the level of pranamaya kosha. And then the next level is called the manomaya kosha. A person comes to the manomaya kosha, a person thinks in terms of sacrificing for others, or he develops qualities like tolerance. He starts becoming thoughtful. He thinks in terms of doing some service for others, forgiving others, being sensitive to others. So such kind of thoughts develop. Manomaya kosha. Many of the social workers are in the manomaya kosha. But even higher than that is the Vijnanamaya kosha, where a person understands that I am different from the body, I am the Atma. But many of the even the common social workers, they may also be they may not be in Vijnanamaya kosha, because they are just feeding the people. It's a good activity, but they are only in that level. Okay, I should provide the needs of others. They are not they may not be aware of the principle Atma is different from the body. So when a person understands I am the Atma different from the body, then a person comes to Vijnanamaya kosha. And even higher than that is the Anandamaya kosha. Atma is not only different from the body, Atma is the servant of the Supreme. Therefore, the Atma should engage in the service of the Supreme. In the service of the Supreme. That is the level of Anandamaya kosha. So Jiva Goswami now turns the phrase Brahmanohi Pratishtaham. So the word Pratishta, the placement of the word Pratishta in near succession of the word Brahma in the Gita remains one of the same Shruti passage which we read, Taittiriya Upanishad 2.5. Yeah, the Shruti passage which ended with Brahma Pucham Pratishta. In the Bhagavad Gita, Brahmanohi Pratishtaham. So, Jiva Goswami is drawing attention to this and draws a connection between the Brahmanohi Pratishtaham and the Taittiriya Upanishad 2.5, which was just mentioned. So the Taittiriya Upanishad, the first 5 mantras of this chapter identify 5 pratishtas. The last and most comprehensive of which was Brahman, Brahma Pucham Pratishta. So in the Gita verse, the Lord names a 6th Pratishta, that is He Himself. In the Gita, Krishna says that I am the basis of Brahman. Taittiriya Upanishad 2.5 concludes with Brahma Pucham Pratishta. Brahman is the basis of the Annamaya Purusha, Pranamaya Purusha, Manomaya Purusha, and Vijnanamaya Purusha. That is how the Taittiriya Upanishad concludes. But in the Gita, Krishna is giving a knowledge which is one step higher than that. That I am the basis of Brahman. Brahmanohi Pratishtaham. And in this way, he is supplementing that knowledge and completing the Taittiriya Upanishad analysis. The I am the basis of Brahman. Bhagavan is the basis of Brahman. He is supplementing and completing that analysis. So Taittiriya Upanishad compares Brahman to the Brahma Pucham Pratishta, the tail of the Purusha. So like the other limbs of the blissful Purusha, Brahman is one of his parts. This means that Bhagavan is the complete whole and Brahman is subordinate to him, being his limb or part. So the Shankaracharya also says that Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogda Gopala Nandanaha Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gitamritam Mahat. He says that Upanishads are like a cow, Bhagavad Gita is like the milk of that Upanishads, the essence of the Upanishads. Gopal Krishna is the one extracting this immortal, giving nectar for the benefit of the whole cosmos. Therefore, it is proper to say that Krishna's statement is a summary conclusion of the discussion found in the Anandavali section of the Taittiriya Upanishad. Krishna's statement, Brahmano hi pratishtagam, is a summary conclusion of those statements in the Taittiriya Upanishad. So therefore, Krishna, because Krishna is superior to the fifth and the topmost support, that is Brahma Puchyam Pratishtha, Krishna asserts this fact. Brahmano hi pratishtagam. I am the support of Brahman. So therefore, Krishna is supplying the essence of the Taittiriya Upanishad here. So Brahman is described as the supporting tail of the Anandamaya Purusha. And it cannot be considered material. But the Lord himself, Bhagavan himself, is described as the whole, or in other words, as the complete bliss, Anandamaya. So just as the sun has innumerable rays, but is itself a mass of light containing the rays. Similarly, Bhagavan is the complete manifestation of the bliss, and Brahman is the tail or the part of him. Part of him. So there is no difference between Brahman and Krishna, but Brahman is manifest without his energies. So Krishna is a more encompassing reality than Brahman. Just like sun is a more encompassing reality than its rays. The rays are dependent on the sun. Rays are under the control of the sun. Similarly, Brahman is dependent on the Bhagavan and controlled by Krishna. So therefore, one can attain Brahman realization only through the worship of Krishna. But it is never possible to attain Krishna through the meditation on Brahman. One can attain Brahman realization through the worship of Krishna, but one cannot attain Bhagavan realization through meditation on Brahman. So therefore, one cannot even realize Brahman without the mercy of Sri Krishna. So then Jiva Goswami takes the Bhagavad Gita 14.26, the previous shloka. Mamchayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. So in the 14th chapter, if you remember the 21st shloka, Arjuna asked different questions. And one of the questions he asks is that how to transcend the three modes of nature. And Krishna is giving the answer to this question on 14.26 by saying that through engagement in avyabhichari bhakti, pure devotional service, one can become free from the gunas. And then Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate, one becomes established in Brahman awareness, one becomes qualified for Brahman realization. Then immediately the natural question which will arise is that you are a person and Brahman is without quality, without energy, imperceptible entity. So how can one realize Brahman? By worshipping you. That's what Krishna is saying in 14.26. By performing unalloyed bhakti to me, one transcends the modes and one becomes qualified for Brahman realization. The natural question is that you are a person and Brahman is without quality, without energies. So how can a person attain Brahman realization? By worship of you? And Krishna is answering that in the next shloka, that is Brahmanohi Pratishtaham. Because I am the shelter of Brahman. I am the shelter of Brahman. So that is what we read. So then, and then he quotes little small information that in many editions of Sridhar Swami's commentary on 14.27, Pratishta is explained as the deity image or a pratima. This seems to be either an interpolation or the result of a scribal error. Because unqualified Brahman cannot have a form. While commenting on Vishnu Purana, Sridhar Swami writes that Pratishta means a shelter. Therefore, it is unlikely that he would translate. While commenting on Vishnu Puran 6.7.75, Sridhar Swami writes Pratishta means a shelter. Therefore, it is unlikely that he would translate it as image or deity in his Bhagavad Gita commentary. When such a interpretation is completely inconsistent with the context. This is it's a comment of the Sridhar Swami, this one. So therefore, this is the first part of the 93.1. We discussed the translations. Today we discuss the purport. So now we'll go to the second part. You may not be able to cover everything, but some part you will cover. So you see the last part. Tadetat. Tad etat sarvam abhipretyahuhu. So it is with the same aforementioned intention that the personified Shrutis prayed. So in the first part of this Anuccheda, no Bhagavatam verses quoted. Taittiriya Upanishad verses quoted and Bhagavad Gita 14.26 and 27 are quoted. Now, how the Bhagavatam verse from the prayers of the personified Vedas, how it is supporting the same conclusion, that is going to be described. So Bhagavatam verse for the personified Vedas, you can repeat after me. Dhritaya iva श्वसन्त्यसुब्रुतो यदि ते नुविदा
धृतय इव श्वसन्त्यसुब्रुतो यदि ते नुविदा
महदहमादयोण्ड मसृजन् यदनुग्रहतः
महदहमादयोण्डम सृजन यदनुग्रहतः
पुरुषविदोऽन्वयोऽत्र चरमोन्नमयादिषु
पुरुषविदोऽन्वयोऽत्र चरमो नमयादिषु
यः सदसतः परं त्वमत यदेष्वशेषमृतम्
यः सदसतः परं त्वमत यदेष्वशेषमृतम्.
So you can read that translation.
It is with the aforementioned intention that the personified Shrutis prayed. Only those who are obedient to you, you are actually alive. Otherwise, their breathing is like that of bellows. By your grace alone, the elements such as Mahat and Ahankar have created this egg shaped body as the ultimate form of the Purusha, encompassing all sub levels of being. You have entered here in these five sheets, or in other words, in the five substratums of the last. This thing is my, yeah. You can read that. Fine. Then I will go through other pages, Prabhu. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah. Being beginning with the Annamaya, you
ah.
are beyond both Sat and Asat and are consequently the remainder of all five substratums and the reality that supports them all.
See, the same Taittiriya Upanishad verse are confirmed here. Arthoyam Brahma Sutranam. Taittiriya Upanishad verses summarized in Anandamayo Vyasat. The same thing is confirmed here. Dhritaya iva shvasant asubruto yadite anuvida. Anuvida means only those who are obedient to you. Only such people are actually alive. Shvasanti. Otherwise, asubruto shvasanti yadi te anuvida. Otherwise, dhritaya iva. Otherwise, their breathing is like that of a bellows. Dhritaya iva. And yad anugragatah. By your grace alone, mahadaham adayo andam asrujan. The elements such as mahat and ahankara have created this andam asrujan, have created this egg-shaped body. Andam asrujan. And as the ultimate form of the Purusha, Purusha Vidu Anvayotra Charamo Annamayadishu. As the ultimate form of the Purusha, encompassing all sub-levels of being. Charama Annamayadishu. You have entered here in these five sheets, five koshas, Annamayadishu. Or in other words, in the five substratums of being, beginning with the Annamaya. Purusha Vidu Anvayotra. And Sadasata Param, you are beyond the Sat and Asat. And are consequently Tvam Ata Yadesh Avashesha Mritam. Consequently, the remainder of all the five substratums and the reality that supports them all. Yadeshu Avashesha Mritam. So maybe we can read the BBT translation also. Can read the BBT translation.
Yes, Prabhu. Only if they become your faithful followers are those who breathe actually alive. Otherwise, their breathing is like that of a bellows. It is by your mercy alone that the elements beginning with the Mahat Tattva and false ego created the egg of this universe. Among the manifestation known as Annamaya and so forth, you are the ultimate one entering within the material coverings along with the living entity and assuming the same form as those he takes. Distinct from the gross and subtle material manifestations, you are the reality underlying them all.
So
When
very
we,
beautiful.
Prabhuji, we were discussing that different consciousness levels as the different purushas, right? So now this is combined here, right? In this sloka, that
Yeah.
five purushas.
The same thing. See, Annamaya Purusha, Pranamaya Purusha. Annamaya Purusha is the first level. Pranamaya Purusha, the support of the Annamaya Purusha. Manomaya Purusha is more subtle. And even subtler than Manomaya Purusha, the Vijnanamaya Purusha, that is the Atma. And the support of Atma is the Anandamaya Purusha, that is the Brahman. Because Brahman is the support of everything. So the same conclusion is actually described in this particular shloka. Because the shloka says that as the ultimate form of the Purusha, encompassing all the sub-levels of being, you have entered here in these 5 sheets, or in other words, the 5 substratums of being, beginning with the Annamaya. And that Brahman is beyond cause and effect. So, Asubruto Jiva Dhritaya Iva Shvasada Api Yadi Te Tava Anuvida Bhakta Bhavanti Tada Shvasanti Prananti. So the Asubruta means the living beings who breathe. They Dhritaya Iva, they merely appear to be breathing. They merely appear to be breathing exactly like a bellows, Shvasad. But yadi te tava anuvida, tava bhakta bhavanti. But if they are obedient to you, if they become your devotees, tada shvasanti, then they are truly alive. Then they are actually breathing. That means when a person actually becomes a devotee, then he is truly alive. That is for the second canto, third chapter. If you see the shlokas, I think 19 or 20th to last shloka. Those eyes which do not take darshan of the deity forms of the Lord, those eyes are like the eyes in a peacock feather. Those legs which do not engage in going to the holy places of the Lord, such legs are like the trunk of a tree. And those ears, those tongue which does not engage in glorifying the Lord, that such kind of tongue becomes like a tongue of a frog. When the frog croaks, it only invites the snake. It only invites the death. Those ears which do not engage in the hearing the glories of the Lord, such ears are compared to the something I forget. In this way, when a person actually engages in snake holes, correct. So therefore, only when a person becomes a devotee, then he is actually alive. So teshu tad bhaktanameva jivanam manyamahe iti bhavaha. So the import is that amongst all living beings, it is the life led by your devotees that we consider to be true living. The true living is led by the devotees because they are actually spending their time in the worship of the Lord. Just like suppose when you want to measure the weight of a rice, you remove the husk and then whatever amount of rice is there, that is the actual weight. So similarly, the life of a living entity is calculated by removing those times in which we did not remember Krishna and include only that time in our life which we spent in worshipping Krishna. And that is the real life of a living entity. That is the worthy portion. And then further he says that Katam is asking a question. Yasya tava anugrahataha samashti vyashti rupa mandam deham mahadaham adayo asrujan ataha swayameva tata vidat tvattah parangmukanam anyesham dhriti tulyatvam yuktameva iti bhavah. So how is it that only your devotees are truly living? That's the question. So tava anugrahata, by your mercy, elements like mahat tattva and ahankara create both the macrocosmic egg in the form of the universe and the microcosmic egg in the form of the body. Samashti Vyashti Rupa Mandam. In the third canto, I think chapter 5 or 6. So after the different elements are created, the presiding deities of the elements, they offer prayers because they were not able to combine the elements to make the creation proceed. At that time, the presiding deities of the elements offer prayers, and then the Lord, in response to those deities, presiding deities of the elements, he enters into each element, and by his possessive energy, he combines the elements. So by Krishna's mercy only, the elements create both the samashti and macrocosmic egg and the microcosmic egg. So if any living beings are averse to you, so therefore parang mukanam, any living beings are averse to you, when your nature is inherently such, that means so merciful, it is only appropriate to consider their breathing to be of no greater significance than the movement of a bellows. So because only by Krishna's mercy, our individual body is formed, and only by Krishna's mercy, this universe is created. So therefore, if a living entity is averse to Krishna, then it is appropriate to consider the breathing of such a living entity to be like the breathing of the bellows. You are understanding?
Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
So therefore, anugrahameva darshayanti. Atra mahadaham adishu anvayaha pravishtasthvam iti. The Shrutis point out the Lord's mercy by saying, you have entered here. Pravishtas tvam iti, you have entered here. Namely, in the elements like Mahat and Aham. Only because Krishna entered the elements are able to combine to form the macrocosmic egg and the microcosmic egg. And then he says, Katam mat pravesha matrena tesham tata samarthyam syat. The Lord can ask, how can these elements have such capability to create the macrocosmic body and microcosmic body simply because of my presence? Simply because of my presence. So tatra ahuhu. In response, yad yasmat sata anandamayakya brahmano avayavasya priyade rasatas tadanyasmad annamayadescha yat param puchabhutam sarva pratishtha brahma tat kalutvam. In response, the Shrutis are saying, yasmat, because you indeed are that Brahman, the tail and the support of all things, beyond both the Sat, that is beyond the conscious states such as love, which inhere in the Anandamaya Brahma, and the Asat, the beyond the inert covering such as the Annamaya. So Anandamayakya Brahmano Avayavasya Priyader Asatas Tad Anyasmad Annamayadescha Yat Param Puchabhutam Sarva Pratishtha Brahma tat kalutvam. Because you indeed are that Brahman, the tail and the support of all beings, beyond both the Sat and Asat, beyond the conscious and the inert coverings. So then he says that Tatrapi Yeshu Pratishta Vakyeshu Avashesham Vakyasheshatvena Sthitam Brahmanohi Pratishtaham Ityadav Anyatra Prasiddham. So furthermore, among all the statements specifying the various supports in the same section of Taittiriya Upanishad, it is mentioned that Avashesham Vakya Sheshatvena Sitam. You are the remainder or the Vakya Shesha. That is the part needed to complete the definition of Brahman. Such as the renowned statement found in Gita, Brahmanohi Pratishtaham. So among all the statements specifying the various supports in the same section of Taittiriya Upanishad, you are the remainder, Avashesha. The Bhagavatam verse says that Yaha sad asataparam tvam ata yadesh avashesham mritam. You are the avashesha, the vakya shesha, the part needed to complete the definition of Brahman. And that is stated in the Gita, Brahmanohi Pratishtaham. And then further, for this anuccheda is there, we'll have to complete. So just this last part. So ityadav anyatra prasiddham. Elsewhere in the Bhagavatam, the same thing is stated. Bhagavatam 2.9.4 is quoted. You can repeat after me. Atma tattva vishuddhyartam
आत्मतत्व विशुद्ध्यर्थम
yadaha bhagavan ritam
यदाह भगवान रुथम
brahmane darshayan rupam
ब्रह्मणे दर्शयन् रूपम्
avyalika vratadritah.
अव्यलीकवृतादृतः.
So here, Sukadeva Goswami is telling that I shall now tell you what the Lord told Brahma, being pleased by his avyalika vrata, being pleased by his sincere austerities, in order to clarify the true nature of the self, Atma Tattva Vishuddhyartham, Brahmane Darshayan Rupam, while showing his form of truth, Ritam Rupam Darshayan. So I shall now, when Brahma performed sincere austerities, Lord became pleased. And the Lord showed his true form, Ritam Rupam Darshayan. And then Lord described the Atma Tattva. I shall describe that same. So in this shloka also, Ityatra Ritatvenapi Prasiddham Shri Bhagavat Rupameva Tattvam. Here Shukadeva Goswami states that the absolute reality celebrated as Rita, truth personified, is nothing but the form of the Lord. Ritam Rupam Darshayan is nothing but the form of the Lord. So and then further things we will see in the next class. Next class, I hope to complete this anuccheda. Slightly long, but hoping to complete, let us see, at least 93. If you have any questions, we can ask. You have to go, you should definitely go through it. Unless you revise it, you will not register again. You have to go through it again.
Actually, the first that what you take class, it's the, of course, by basic standard itself is very high. So I, our focus to your lecture and
Mm.
our focus to the script, both are sometimes not in sync. In the sense, you are in sync, of course, definitely, but our contemplation is not in sync sometimes. It goes haywire. So
Mm.
we need to read, as you said, unless we don't read it again, that
Mm.
won't gel in actually. The
Yeah.
understanding is there, but the details are the which is interesting. Sometimes that is misplaced. So
Mm.
we need to find those in the again reading again, and of course I'm reading regularly now. I'm completing that
Mm.
50 to 57. That that this thing that I mean that contradictions are removed. That name and form of the Lords is transcendental.
Mm.
That I'm completing now. I'm completing 53 anucheda now. Today I
Mm.
completed that. So interesting. Actually, there should be a systematic study on the Shat Sandarbha Prabhu, because
Mm.
examination and that those kind of a thing will make us more and more take it part into it and interested. It's very interesting actually.
Mm.
That's how it is. So you are. I can't afford to miss your class. That is a
Mm.
that is a status now presently. Everyone in our group, I think, they feel the same thing. Unless compulsions are there, they don't miss. That.
I'm thinking of the start came at least. We can have at least 2 classes a week. At least I want to
Yeah,
speed up and complete the this Bhagavad Sandarbha.
correct,
Of
bro.
course, last few Anuchedas are little long. We are
Huh.
in 93rd Anucheda, 102. Another 8 Anuchedas are there. Because it's around 140 pages. Let us see. I thought we can have 2 days teaching like that. We've been daytime. From the last few weeks, I was traveling and it become very, very difficult to take.
I know you are over stressed out your of your time, but I was just contemplating because in we have completed one anucheda and second anucheda almost all it took 5 years, almost 4 to 5 years.